Okay, hi everyone. Hi, it's Munir Lazouzi here from Easy Medical Device. And we are starting today our second medical device live expert. So this medical device live expert will be specifically targeted for the US market. I mean, we will have US experts today. So I hope they will be really helping you to understand the situation there. The topics of today will be three topics. We'll have topics about the medical device regulation in Europe, so how the US are seeing that. Then the second topic will be the QMSR, so quality management system regulation for the US. And the third topic will be artificial intelligence in the US. So is it easy or not to reach the market? So this live is streamed live today, but it will be recorded. So anyway, this can be seen in future for any new views that can be seen on the YouTube channel. Okay, so let me know if there is anyone on the chat that if you can see me or can hear me, so that it is that to put just a message. So our expert today, as I said, will be trying to explain to us more about those regulations and answer also your questions. So the idea is also that we are asking you to mainly ask your question directly and tell us many more if you are if you have some questions specific on the topic. So the objective is really to talk about the topic here and not about mainly other things. But at the end, we can still have some question maybe about other topics if we have some time. So each time we have the subject, will be making things specific to this topic. But at the end, we'll give maybe some time for more. Okay, so I see Mark, Mathis, hi. Can you tell me where you are from? I like that also, that you are telling where they are from, so that we can see that. Oh, I see even Rob. I mean, but Rob is also normally on the live. So Mark, Nancy, anybody else? And where are you from, maybe? And just trying to check here. Camarillo, c'est California, so maybe in the region of Michel then. Bernardo, hi. David Day, hi. Okay, so apparently everything is working. Switzerland for Mark, great, so the same region as me. Galway for David, Ireland, so great. So yeah, let's see mainly everybody that is joining. Greetings from Belgium, from Marianne. Greetings from Canada, from Imang. From the UK, Barry. Céline Perez from France. Hey, Céline. So Barcelona from a LinkedIn user. I don't know the name. Okay, so let's maybe make the first introduction of our guests. Just a second, because I still try to get Rob Packard in the live, but he's not there. Okay, so he will maybe join just after. Maybe has some difficulties. Okay, so let's make the introduction of our experts today. So let's put them on live. Okay. Okay, so we have the first expert is mainly an expert that is located in the US, in the west side of the US. So it's really early in the morning for her. So we have had her a lot of time also on the podcast with us at Easy Medical Device. So the expert is Michelle Lotte. Hey, Michelle.
Good morning or good afternoon.
Hey, good morning. How are you, Michelle?
I'm doing fine. I got my coffee, so I'm ready to go.
Great. Good. Okay, the second expert, I met him not a long time ago in Switzerland. So he's really active also on LinkedIn, on social media, with a lot of information, great information also. And he will try to help us also to see about the healthcare, not specifically medical devices, but also pharma. So it is Arsh Takar.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Arsh. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Munir.
Right. So I have normally a third guest, but I'm still waiting him to join us. So I will be maybe coming in few minutes, but let's give him some few times. So as said, we have here this panel just to discuss more about the US, if I can say, situation. But first, as always, we'll try to discuss maybe about Europe first, and then we can go to some US topics. But as usual, what we are doing at the beginning is mainly to do some kind of random news. So the idea is mainly if you, the expert, you have some random news that you want to share with us. So I want to start with you, Michelle. Is there any random news that you want to share with people that we can maybe discuss about?
Yeah, it's truly random because I don't have any specifics here, but the FDA has in a public meeting and in 2 other announcements started talking about how they're going to revolutionize the 510K program, but with like no information, or like, is it just the E-Star and they're moving, more and more submissions to it? They're expanding that program. Nobody knows yet. So you guys need to be paying attention and stay tuned for possibly some big changes to the 510K program, because like last year they released 2 draft guidances that were like gonna like make it the predicate selection extremely difficult. So there could be big changes coming in the next year.
So we had the E-Star with version. What is the version now of the E-Star?
I believe it's on 5 point something. Like the major revision is 5.0.
So since the E-Star started, was it more helpful for people or not at all?
There are things about it that are a lot more helpful, because there are drop downs where it has like help text. So it helps you like read it, like understand the question and what they're looking for. It also has informational, not just help, where it points you to specific guidance documents, or it clarifies what their expectations are. So in those ways, it's a lot more helpful. But in other ways, like you can only see 4 lines of text at a time.
Yeah,
and
exactly, true.
Yeah, so you're like scrolling, you're reading, trying to read something very technical, and you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And then it crashes a lot, and you'll lose your information or your attachment. So,
and I heard also that when you change from one version to another, you have to restart the full thing. If you're in the middle, you have to restart the full thing from 0 and copy paste everything on the new version, otherwise they will not accept that also.
Yeah. So I don't even put anything into the template until me and my clients and my other consultants all like agree on it in a Word document, and then we sign off on that. Then we put it in the E-Star.
Great.
At the last second.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you learn by experience, so now you know exactly what the best method to do these kind of things. So we have our third guest that arrived. So let's let him answer. So this is a guest also that I had once on the podcast talking about post-marketing surveillance in the US, and he's located in the US, and it is Rob Packard.
Hi everybody. Sorry I'm late. I deleted the link by accident.
Yeah, I saw that. So I sent that to you. So how are you? Everything's fine?
Very good.
Great. So we're on the random news. So asking people about random news. So now maybe Arsh, what is your random news?
Yeah, so a lot of people have messaged me on LinkedIn and asked me if I have a course or have I ever done a training on quality management. And it's like I never wanted to do it because then it would not be fun. I just like to, create content, but I am actually creating a 5-day email course on quality management, focusing more on, how to incorporate people, the processes, the technology, everything. It's meant to be timeless. It's not meant to be, mimicking any certain regulation. It's more philosophical, if I can say it in that sense. So it's not done yet, but hopefully when it's out, I will, have an email list, a call out on LinkedIn. And if people subscribe, they will get 5 days worth of email. If they hate it, they can unsubscribe or they can stay on.
Yeah, sure. And I like those kind of things because more and more we are seeing people that look for having a quality management system, and they think that it's just a bunch of documents that you are just taking and applying. But no, there is really a mindset behind that we are really using that not only for filling a gap, but really to use it as our process for our company and to be all aligned in the same route, same objective, same goal. So yeah, I think it's great to have a philosophical, if I can say, training instead of a technical one where we say, okay, we need this procedure with that thing inside, etc., which is maybe a better thing. So yeah, anyway, if there is any publication of that, so I will let me know, and we can send it again to everybody here. And for your side, Rob, any random news?
I do have some random news. This morning, I finally hit my threshold of pain. I'm actually double booked for a pre-sub with the FDA.
Okay. Double booked.
You know, it's one thing to have 2 in a week, but 2 at the exact same time is really a challenge.
So how you will do that then? How you will?
Well, that's why you have a team of people to help you. So,
no, but
Bhumika's going to be taking that one, the new one that was added. But normally we say I'm the submission contact and the FDA will coordinate the meetings with me, but this particular one, the client decided that they wanted to be the submission contact. And of course, Murphy's Law always wins, and they schedule it for the exact same time.
And the client scheduled it without consulting you about what time you were available.
So it's really the lottery here, because being booked at the same time, it's like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. So so press-up is really something that we have again to explain. It's really something that is a benefit, I think, in the US in comparison to what we have in Europe. In Europe, we cannot have this kind of pre-submission and explaining our strategies to our authorities. So here, it's really something that I really advise people to use a lot and to get some feedback from the FDA before they are going on the market. But it's good, yeah.
I think it would be a great process to introduce in Europe, because I would not say that the way the FDA does it, they're consulting in any way.
Right.
It's more about telling you yes or no, if I can say.
Yes, this strategy will work, or no, here's all the problems with it.
Yeah.
They don't tell you how to do it. They tell you what you did wrong.
Exactly, yeah. What I like is
notified bodies are great at that, and they would also make sure they charge a premium price for that pre-submission.
No, it's clear. It's free or not, the pre-submission?
In the US.
Yeah, in the US, exactly.
Yeah, but I wouldn't mind paying for it if it would be timely. But 75 days is a long time for some companies to wait. I think the notified bodies would be much happier if they just charged for pre-subs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it's good. Keep it free. It's fine for us. It's already expensive to go to the US. So yeah, I mean, it's already expensive. Maybe less than Europe for the moment, but yeah.
Coming, like, Rob, what do you think? Like, I think it's just a matter of time before they start charging for pre-subs. The FDA.
I think it would be a great way to monetize and cover the budget for it. I mean, I think also
like because they actually have metrics like that they have to perform to and get you your submission in that 75 days.
Yep.
Whereas
and
like 513Bs, which you do pay for, they don't have a metric for it. So even though they say that those have a similar time frame to the pre-subs, I've been waiting 10 months on one.
Yep.
It's ridiculous.
And I actually prefer the sprint format. If I could have multiple submissions in at the same time or have shorter turnaround, the sprints make a lot of sense. But the difference between a sprint and a pre-sub is you're only covering one topic, and in a pre-sub you can cover up to 4. So if you want to ask questions about human factors and clinical studies, that's 2 topics, so you can't do a sprint on both. You got to pick which one's more important to you right now and cover the other one later. But if they would allow me to either overlap them or have shorter timelines, then sprints would be nice, because then you only need to coordinate with one subject matter expert instead of 4. And so it should make it easier for the FDA to coordinate meetings when you only have one subject matter expert in the lead reviewer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Michael Kanya says 75 days for notified bodies is like one day a year. It's like a day a year. So.
Yeah.
And Rob Van Boxtel, so sounds like a dialogue that is very structured. So
It is. It has guidance documents and forms, and you have so many days to reply. It's sort of like a corrective action response for a notified body.
I can imagine. Yeah, I think it's I mean, I like that way. I hope notified body maybe will do this kind of thing, but no, they are not. So it's something that maybe to be improved. But yeah, for the moment they are not willing to go that way. Okay, so thanks again for those random news. Now we will go to the first topic of the day. And yeah, I know we are in the US focus way, but what I want to hear more now is about what is the situation in terms of EU MDR seen by the US manufacturers or US consultants, because we have more consultants here. So the MDR, mainly again for people, so kicked off in the 26th of May 2021, IVDR 26th of May 2022, so just after, 1 year after. And since then, there was a lot of changes on some corrigendum, some delegated acts, some pushing proposals, dates were moved again, one and again, number 1, number 2, etc. Now we had the last date, which was the 26th of May 2021, for everybody to make their application to a notified body to be able to benefit from the transition period, extra transition period, because we had a first transition period and now we have an extra transition period. So now the next due date is the 26th of September 2024, where any companies that have no agreement signed finally with the notified body, then they cannot benefit anymore from this transition period. So now we are in the middle, like a limbo, where we applied and now we are waiting for notified bodies to sign the agreements with the manufacturers, which is by the 26th of May 2024. And after that, I have another medical device live expert that will be coming in August, where we talk about potential, again, new changes of EU MDR with some other experts also. So I wanted to open the floor here for our experts. So mainly, maybe Michelle, how are you seeing that from the US? What is your thinking of the EU MDR? Is it something that your clients want to go for or not at all?
Not at all. So in short, most of my clients are startups or small to mid-size, and even the ones that were in the EU, most of them have decided not to continue selling in the EU because the cost, frankly, exceeds the value of the business that they had in the EU. Some of it's commodity products that, like a silicone tube that's a wound drain. There's no way you can inflate the price enough to cover the cost of the extra testing and everything that they're going to have to do to bring it to market and the notified bodies.
And even mainly due also maybe to some reimbursement rules that are in the country. So even that, because of that, you cannot inflate the price again or whatever. So last time during the previous
countries, as you have in the EU, you have that many reimbursement schemes,
exactly.
That many tenders. Like it's just a lot to navigate.
Yeah, and we had mainly the medical device manufacturers that are located in the US, when they want to go to Europe, they have the cost of also the authorized representative to cover. If they want to go to UK or to Switzerland, it's an additional cost, plus the notified body to cover, plus maybe the consultant that we have to pay for doing all that. So I think it's that. And last time during the medical device live expert, we talked about a manufacturer that some manufacturers had to pay like 5 million to get a CE certificate for their device, and we had no clue what is the scope of that or that. But just this number was like astronomical for us. It was like, who pays that for being able to get a CE certificate here? So, Rob, anything from your side?
For the MDR submissions, we do have several clients that insisted that they want to go after the CE marking after they get the 510K. We also have about half of our clients are from Europe. So those clients either are doing the submissions in parallel or they've done the CE marking first. So we have both directions. But I would say there's nobody that's doing a low risk device or a very commodity type product where they want to go after CE marking. It's all the cutting edge, bells and whistles, wireless, works on my mobile device and can talk with space.
Yeah. If it's new and novel and you had to do a clinical trial, then you're going to be good to go in Europe. But if you don't have to do a clinical trial for the US, then you're unlikely to pursue Europe. But I'm like Rob, I've gotten the amount of my business from outside of the US has really increased over the last few years because not even Europe's wanting to do Europe right now.
So in terms of Europe, what do you see maybe as the most difficult piece, if I can say, of that? Is it the clinical investigation, or is it doing some testing or fulfilling the requirements of MDR in terms of just creating a technical file? What is one of the pieces that you say, this part is really one of the most difficult apparently for MDR?
I think from a technical perspective, it's like all those things you mentioned, but it's the subjectiveness from reviewer to reviewer and like submission to submission. I know somebody that put in 12 technical files for similar products, all like 11 flew through with the same reviewer. And then on the 12th, they got a random opinion that they didn't have the other 11 times and just dug their feet in. And because they were the clinical reviewer, they were the end all be all for that submission. And they just had to do what the person was asking. And it was like unreasonable, that was a large client, but a small client wouldn't have been able to afford to collect the data that they wanted. Okay.
And you, Rob?
I think it comes down to three things. One, we have clients that don't understand the CE marking process, so they don't know how to build a technical file. If they let us do the technical file for them, instead of coming to us with a technical file and say, can you help us fix it? Things go much smoother. The second thing that I would say is just like Michelle said, the subjectivity. You end up with a much longer review process, many more rounds. I mean, with a 510K, you're allowed basically one round. You're going to have an AI hold, and you have a limited amount of time, and they're not charging you more money for your response review. Whereas in Europe, the money just starts getting burned in the beginning in your first round, and you really get into the rigorous burning of dollars or euros in the second half and the third. And I just laugh at the quotes. They're like, well, it's going to be
exactly.
It's going to be 80-90,000 for the first round.
Exactly.
And if you survive that and you're not out of business, then we'll see how much you can borrow.
This is the great point because I have the same experience. So I have at the beginning when we receive the quotes from the notified bodies, we say, oh, this is the price, like 60 or 70 or 80K. But at the end, when we finish the project, they paid maybe the double or the triple of the project. And now each client, I say to them, when they tell you a number, put times 3, and then you'll have the budget. Because as you said, yes, it's the number if everything goes well, but nothing goes well. So each time there is a round of discussion number 1, round of discussion number 2, and each time, and it's paid by hour, so hourly rate. So it's not paid by a project, it's really paid by hour. So more they are reviewing, more they are doing, more you have to pay. So yeah, it's a good point that people have to remember.
You're incentivized to have issues with your technical file.
Yes, I mean, it's what
we do have one more difference though. The Europeans have clinical data, the US has clinical data. They both have documentation you're submitting, but the risk management piece I would say is significantly different as well.
Yeah.
Post-market surveillance and risk management, those pieces are unique to Europe because the only time you see post-market surveillance in the US is for a class 3 PMA. In risk management, you only see for de novos and PMAs. You don't normally see that for a 510K. So the risk management file is a significant burden for these companies because even though in theory they're supposed to have risk management, to the satisfaction of the notified body is a whole different ball of wax. And the MDR doesn't really match 14971 all that closely.
From your side, Arsh, do you see that? Because I know that you are more in the pharma side, but do you see or do you hear about all this And do you have an experience about maybe some clients or some people talking about that?
Yeah, I've heard pretty much what Michelle and Rob were saying is that a lot of the companies in US, especially clients that I work with who have medical device divisions and a pharma and biotech division, it's making it more the requirements for demonstrating sort of risk benefit analysis is not thought of, for the different types of products. Like Michelle mentioned an example, like, if you have contact lens or something very simple, you shouldn't have to go through this extensive, checklist of documents and requirements, because it doesn't add any value. Sure, you can hire somebody to do it, but that's where, it seems like the EU MDR, from what I can hear from other consultants and people, is a really wide net for a bunch of different types of products, but they all don't fit that same profile. And then everybody is sort of coming and trying to figure out, what can work for them, which is defeating the purpose of having, one overarching regulation. That's kind of what I'm seeing from talking with people.
Hey, Monir, I've got a question for you. I had a notified body explain it to me like this, like a C certificate under the MDD is like having a driver's license. And and it allows you to, drive your product in the EU. Your driver's license has an expiration date.
Yeah.
And if you did not put in an application for a new driver's license by May 26th, your driver's license is expired. You can no longer legally drive your product in the EU.
Yeah.
But since May 26th, I have not seen any data. I have some friends at notified bodies. I can't get them to say anything meaningful about how many applications were actually filed by May 26th and how many products are now being illegally marketed in Europe. Do you have any data or information about this?
No, there is no data, but it's why I said before that we are in a limbo situation where the date of the 26th is the last date normally, even what is written on your certificate. And legally, if I can say, you can benefit from this extra transition period if you have started the application by the 26th of May. So it's mainly what they are saying. But the real date is the 26th of September 2024, which is the date where normally from that time, if you have no agreement with the notified body, then you cannot normally, if I can say, sell anymore your device. But yes, I agree with you that normally by the date should have been maybe 2 months before the 26th of May. They are doing the application, and the 26th of May is the date where everybody is stopped. But they made the other way, which is, I don't know if we can say illegally placed on the market, but yeah, it's true that, as I said, we are really in a limbo situation where it's not really clear.
If they haven't even started the application process, is it possible that people who have not yet applied can apply and get their application accepted by September? So that's out. If you haven't applied, then you're done.
Exactly. The application should have been done before or at the 26th of May 2024. Any application received 27th of May 2024 is normally illegal and cannot be accepted. And then they cannot use that for going on the market. And normally, anybody that has not sent an application by the 26th of May 2024, they cannot sell normally anymore their devices. I'm sure that maybe some companies continue to sell devices, even if they have no, if I can say, legal base to do that. But normally, in that way, it's the importer, distributor, authorized representative, or any economic operator that is on the other side of the logistic part that should stop this device to be placed on the market. So yeah, but we are starting also to see a lot of competent authorities, because we talked about that in one podcast also, about Switzerland starts to make a lot of review. Belgium is doing that also. So we have a lot of competent authorities that are also starting to verify. But I don't know on which basis they are doing that. I don't know if they have some kind of listing or if somebody's is telling them check this one or check this one. But yeah, there are some situations that are happening here. Yeah. So then, is it still let's wait and see, or it's more let's go now to Europe.
I think everybody's still in a wait and see.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Europe, the same?
I think that we're going to see a shift when you start seeing shortages. So there are
Okay.
going to be key shortages, and people will see the money, and they'll look at it like, I don't care if it costs me $250,000. If I can
Yeah.
own the market and nobody else is going to compete, why not?
This is also that, exactly. So maybe it's taking a lot of time, a lot of budget, but if you are the only one selling, then you win everything. So it's mainly also that should be taken into account.
I think that a smart notified body out there would say, we're going to take fewer customers, and we're just going to charge top dollar, but we're going to guarantee we're going to finish it in a timely manner.
Yeah,
There's an
right.
opportunity for somebody out there to do that.
Sure. Okay, so thanks for your opinion on this. Let's go now to the second topic of today, which is mainly a US topic. So we try really to understand more about the situation in the US. So a few months ago, we talked about mainly the change of the legislation change of the rules in the US about QMSR. So mainly the idea here is that what is the situation with QMSR, so quality management system? So what is changing? Is it really a revolution for the US market, or no, not at all? Because mainly a lot of people already have followed the ISO 13485. So Michelle, maybe you want to start?
Sure. So I think that if you are already compliant with ISO 1345 and you're already marketing in other markets outside of the US, you're going to have see very little change, or there's some definition alignment and some kind of other fairly minor things that you need to update, but there's going to be no big shift. But if you're only marketing in the US and you're only compliant with the current QSR, then it's going to be a much bigger transition for you, because there are some things that might have been best practice under QSR, but weren't requirements. And now you're going to have procedures for certain things, and there's less flexibility. I think the QSR allowed you to be more creative in your compliance, and ISO 13485 is more specified in what it looks like to comply.
So can we say the QMSR is exactly the same as ISO 13485, or there are still some changes here?
There are still some changes.
Okay.
And for me to tell you, like, definitions is like one of the biggest differences is an understatement, because
Okay.
what is different about the definitions implies a lot of procedural and practice differences as well.
Okay.
Like,
From your side, Arsh, any comment on that?
Yeah, so I've heard very similar things, right? So we have currently a client in Canada, and they are looking to get ISO 13485 certification, and they're also in this situation where they think if they get ISO 13485 certified, it eventually they will be following what the new QMSR guidance is or regulation is. So that's kind of what I've also heard. And that's, a current client, they've mentioned the same thing. Now, we haven't really gone through all the steps of going in that direction. And the other thing that Michelle mentioned is also something I've seen with a different client who was only following 820, never had 13485. And then now they're suddenly doing gap assessments, and they're struggling to figure out, what has changed.
Okay. Rob?
I'm seeing quite a few companies that are adding on MDSAP,
Okay.
more than I ever saw before,
Okay.
because they know it'll help them avoid U.S. audits. So I'm even seeing U.S. companies do that just to avoid the U.S. inspections.
Even if they are
the
selling
FDA.
only in the US?
They're selling only in the U.S. and they're still going after MDSAP just to avoid FDA inspections.
which I think is fascinating, Rob, because the FDA may come to you every 2 years. They may come to you every 10 years. They may come to you not at all. There is no really fixed frequency.
Yeah.
I think that logic's always very interesting, because you go from, it's a little bit of a Russian roulette. You may or may not get audited, to you will for sure get audited every year for the rest of forever.
it's true.
Yeah.
Because
And-
here,
But you know what it is, and you know when they're coming.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
true.
think that's
And
think
you
that's
have to
what's pushing
pay.
it.
So it's like that trade-off of,
yeah.
It's
But
just
the
to avoid
price
the
tag is
surprise.
crazy.
It's just to avoid the surprise of them knocking at the door. It's like, no, I know they are coming, so I'm ready. Instead of,
Yep.
I don't know when they are coming.
But
yeah.
I would say that very similar to what Michelle said, the companies that already had 820 and Harsh said that as well, as whenever somebody already has 820, they the gap is they got to do a gap analysis against 1345. If they already were compliant with 1345, the changes are very minimal. But I think the number one question I'm getting is, do I have to go back and change all my documentation to say this word instead of that word?
Okay.
And I'm just like, why don't you just say in your procedure that it can mean either or?
Exactly.
It
Yeah,
can be DMR or tech file or medical device file. All are used synonymously.
yeah.
And
And
this
then
is-
when the DMR definition goes away, delete it at your leisure.
Exactly. No, I agree with you because there are some techniques like that people can use and can avoid them a lot of trouble to go to each document one by one, finding the wording and changing that, and just having that and having that within your procedures and maybe training your people on that will be sufficient for that. Harsh?
Yeah.
But that's where, you know, it's like sometimes there's this, as consultants we have to help client interpret that, hey, just because they removed the definition doesn't mean they've removed, you know, the requirements to
Or the
comply with that.
expectation.
Yes, it's still a medical device file. That's or you know, whatever the new term is. They've removed these three. You can go and update your glossary, remove it from your SOP, whatever. But fundamentally, you still have to follow the requirements that you are following, right? That's causing a lot of confusion because people feel like, oh, that's not in the new regulation. I said, yeah, it's there. It's in a different way.
So we
Whenever I give presentations on the QMSR, I have a whole set of slides that talk about the difference between the regulation and the expectation.
Yep.
Because if you look at what the new preamble to the QMSR says, it says, yes, we are not codifying 14971. We are not codifying the notes to 1345. But if you want to know what we mean when we say risk, then you need to understand 14971. Similarly, if you want to know what we mean about a particular clause, you need to understand the notes. And then it just keeps going and going and going because 13485 mentions a dozen standards outside of 1345 that are now if you want to understand what we meant, then go read. And then there's the practical guide. This is my favorite document personally, the practical guide to 1345. So we take something that was 20 some odd pages and turn it into something that is 230 some odd pages, 228, I believe. It's just like, where does it ever stop? It just, that it snowballs.
Exactly. So one question that we have in the audience is mainly from Celine, for example, Perez, Zakaria, which says, when will this be applicable? So there is a date, and somebody answered February 2026. So does it mean that it's like the MDR, we have a transition period until that date, and by that date, everything should be ready, or?
Yes, everything has to be done by that date.
Because they will have a new inspection methodology, and starting that date, they will be inspecting to the new inspection methodology under the QMSR.
Yeah.
So here, when we say this transition, it's also for the FDA. It's not only for the manufacturers.
Yes.
Technically, yes, but there are similar on the review to the review side. The inspection side is going to see a lot of old inspectors retire. Like I know several that have said, you know what, I'm out. I got my 25, 30 years in. I don't want to learn this new thing. I'm gonna retire.
Okay.
And then they're hiring brand new inspectors that have not even worked in industry, that just came out of maybe master's or PhD programs, and they'll just teach them the QMSR from scratch. So,
Okay.
Yep.
and,
So-
and they won't even know. So we're going to have this whole fleet of inspectors that never even knew what QSR was.
But is it good or is it bad?
It is what it is.
That's a naughty answer.
If they don't know about QSR, maybe they are not formatted to QSR, so then they are going freshly to QMSR, and then there is no bias or no interpretation or whatever. No.
Well, I think that the FDA is going to probably use the MDSAP training program in a modified version for training all the new inspectors, because the MDSAP program includes all the country-specific requirements and all of 1345, and they already have that training program built and validated for all the notified bodies that have become MDSAP auditors. And they had multiple years of practice with it. So to just delete all the requirements that are non-US and say, this is your new training program, that's the easiest way to do it. The alternative is they pay AAMI to give them a training program that's not as good.
No, agree.
So I want to address the comment that was just up. Yep. I actually agree with that inspector's comment about that, that the methodology for an ISO 13485 is inferior to the current quality system inspection technique. And the reason why I think that is because the ISO 13485 and even the MDSAP task model is more of a checklist, and you just have to, and you have to write in an answer to everything, even if it's not an issue, as opposed to you can truly do a system inspection and see where the system and its interactions are falling apart underneath the quality system inspection technique. It's like pulling a thread, and does the whole thing unravel or does the sweater stay intact? You know?
Yeah, back when I was working for BSI and we came up with a regulatory checklist for Canada, the requirement was if the company had CAMDCAS, you only had to fill out the checklist once during the certification cycle and during a recert. Those are the only times you had to fill it out. So having a regulatory checklist that you fill out every single time that covers every single clause makes no sense at all. If you're going to do an inspection, which is by definition going to be a spot check, you'd be much better off to have a risk-based approach to it. So this checklist approach is not the best approach. So if I'm wrong and they pick more of a risk-based approach, that would be fantastic for the QMSR, but yes. I don't see it happening, because then they'd have to create a whole new QZIT inspection guide for the QMSR, and that would require extensive training. And I just don't see that happening. And they didn't do it for the FDA was the number one proponent of the checklist approach for the MDSAP. So why would they backtrack and say, no, we don't like that approach? I think they're going to embrace the checklist because they know it requires less skill and it's more objective. So you can say, yep. We checked all the boxes, we move on.
Exactly, yeah. Harsh, in terms of pharma and medical device, so is there a difference here with what FDA is doing for the quality management system?
No, I would say that, for the non-medical device type clients that we are working with, most of them, either they have ISO 9001 certification, or even if they don't have the certification, they have a QMS that is sort of, takes the idea of 9001 and they build upon it. But, so that's like the main difference here. But I don't see, in terms of like the fundamentals of what the quality management requirements are, there is much difference between, medical device or pharma here.
Okay. No, I think it's a good point. So we had also another comment here. Considering the shift of the QMSR and FDA inspection, is it likely that the FDA will be put in the position that we see with notified bodies with lack of resources? Are they prepared? Does it mean more 483s? Any comment?
The inspections are going to take longer if they take that checklist approach and they cover 100% of it. I don't think. I think all the inspections are going to have to go 5 days. They're not going to be able to do any reduced inspections with that approach. So that will cause a constraint on resources.
Because if
Will they have more
an
shortages? I
inspection
don't know.
goes well, it's like what, 1 to 2 days if it goes well, for a small manufacturer. But if, to Rob's point, if they do have to follow a checklist and they have to write in something for every box, you
Yeah,
should
it's like,
expect that the FDA inspection is going to take just as long as a MDSAP or ISO 1345.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I agree on that way side. That yeah, when it's just structured on that way, it's more like robotic, if I can say, and then they will be just following the step 1, step 2, step 3, and moving forward. And yeah, it will be not really any interpretation from them to say, oh, no need to go on that way because
Yep.
I saw everything else. So yeah, it's more about that. Okay, so I think we have a good understanding now of QMSR, and for people, there are still some questions, but let's move now maybe to the next topic, which is a topic that is more about the new technologies. So we discuss a lot here in Europe about artificial intelligence, but when I see what's happening in the US in terms of guidances, I see a lot of guidances that are issued about artificial intelligence. So what is mainly your opinion about that? So does it make it easier for some medical device manufacturers to place their device on the market with when it contains artificial intelligence, as there are a lot of guidances, so help for them, or it's creating more problems because they have to follow some rules that maybe they would not have to follow if it was not written in a guidance? Rob, maybe? You're on mute, Rob.
Sorry that. I don't know how the FDA is going to handle that. The FDA really hasn't come up with any guidances that are for inspections or QMSR. All their guidances that they've come up with are product specific or they're specific to testing. And the way I like to explain it to clients is if there's an FDA guidance for testing, it's explaining how they don't comply with the recognized standard. So it's sort of like the ZA and ZB at the beginning of a standard saying, this is the harmonization annexes and explaining what you don't meet that's in the MDR and the IVDR. I think the FDA guidance documents are the same kind of approach. This is how we don't comply. The exceptions, like the classic ones for biocompatibility, are you must use surface area, you can't use mass, except under these certain situations. You must use these conditions. We prefer these methods. Whereas when you're doing something according to a standard, the standards are going to give you more flexibility, and the regulators don't want that.
So, in terms of artificial intelligence, it's something, as I've said, that a lot of countries are starting to talk about. There are a lot of things that are happening. So, is this also something that you start to see more with your clients, or it's something that it's still at the beginning now?
We have a very large number of clients that are doing AI technology, machine learning, but the guidance documents are having almost no impact.
Okay.
Because the guidance documents aren't even close to where the companies are at.
Okay. So you mean they're not
like, do I need to read this? No, we look at it as the only critical part is how you're going to validate your algorithm. The machine learning or the AI technology is just another way to create an algorithm. And you have to validate an algorithm that was generated by a computer the same way you have to validate an algorithm that was developed by a textbook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Arsh, for your experience on that?
Yeah, so I would say that on the drug development and biotech side, there have been some discussion papers towards the end of last year from the FDA. There's no guidance, nothing like that, right? So even the pharma biotech is in the same side, and the discussion paper has some points or some intention of what the FDA concerns are. Like, they're concerned about data integrity, they're concerned about different cloud applications, they're concerned about the connectivity of, IoT and all the Internet of Things and all the different things connected together. But what's happening on the pharma side, and I'm sure this also Rob and Michelle would probably agree or see that that's happening on the medical device side, is it's going to come down to simplifying and clarifying the intended use of the product, because there are going to be non-AI and AI components mixed. You're not going to have 100% AI autopilot product, right? So that's where companies have the opportunity to really simplify and go deep into the intended use, so they can defend that, hey, only this component of my product has AI, and that's only the one that I'm going to go deep on. Everything else I'll follow. FDA is not going to do that. It's every company has to do it and present the application in that sense. And in terms of what I'm using with my current clients is obviously the NIST risk management framework for AI. I think that's one of the most comprehensive structured framework out there, if any companies are building AI. And then on the pharma side, we have the GAMP, which is the automated, ISP
GAMP5,
GAMPs. Yeah, so that was revised, and the new version has some methods of how to validate AI software. So again, it is meant for pharmaceutical manufacturing, but I don't see why other industries cannot adopt some of the principles there.
I saw some people using the GAM5 with the new version of AI also for medical devices. So it's a methodology that is not like restrictive, but it's mainly something that can also be applicable for medical devices. For you, Michelle, any experience on artificial intelligence?
So one thing I think is interesting and is a big difference with the EU is the FDA actually has a webpage dedicated to all the devices that they have cleared that have AI and ML in them. And I did like a quick analysis on this yesterday. There's 882 devices on that list that date back to 1995.
Yeah.
It's like, I was still, I think, using Lotus Notes or something in 1995. But between 1995 and 2016, there were only 51 devices. Since 2018, in 2018, 64 were cleared that year alone. And then in 2024, in the first quarter, there's already been 41 devices. So this predicts out to there's going to be about 180 cleared for 2024 by the FDA.
So do you think?
Then in 2023, they cleared 221 that whole year. So it's just growing, almost exponentially in what the FDA is accepting and putting out.
Within your opinion, so do you think that us as a consultant that are working in quality and regulatory affairs for devices or for pharma or others, so is it an added value for us to have more and more learning of this artificial intelligence, or it's really too technical and will not change our work at all?
Every single consultant out there is going to need to master cybersecurity and software, because everything is connected to the internet. Everything. I haven't seen a Band-Aid yet, but it's going to happen. I keep on saying it. The internet Band-Aid.
Yeah, I saw that also. Yeah.
Michelle talked about the oldest one that the FDA has is back in 95. But before I worked in the medical device industry, which was 2000, I had a decade of experience where my expertise was scale up of pharmaceutical and biotech, and I used machine learning and automated tuning of parameters for that equipment back to 1990. So that's what my degree's in. It's scale up and automated control of biological processes in a bioreactor. And I used to do stuff from home on my computer So before I had email, I could automatically control things from home.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's the technology the medical device industry has is at least a decade, if not 2 decades, behind other industries. The like petroleum industry, when they started stringing up telephone wires, the petroleum industry had everything electronic and automated.
Yeah, and finance also, they had also a lot of those robots that were making the trading for them there. I mean, this is not something new. It's just that actually it's easy access, if I can say so. It's maybe easier to access this kind of thing, and we have the technology in the back to process all the information that are received more quickly and more easily, and that. So I suppose this is what made it more accessible, and people are using that more. But for the moment, I'm not seeing. I mean, each time we have a software, each time they add an artificial intelligence module or component or whatever that things. I think it's also is it also a marketing way to say if there is no artificial intelligence inside, it will maybe be not well accepted by people. Harsh, maybe.
It's definitely marketing, and I'm trying to get it off my computer as we speak. Screwed up some of the functions.
No, what I was having this conversation with another consultant in Europe like 2 weeks ago, and we were looking at a bunch of companies and seeing how even pharma and biotech companies are now building apps and other tools in addition to what they've been doing all along, because I think a lot of the companies, when I started maybe 20 years ago, when I was doing like validation and quality assurance, there weren't that many SaaS tools, at least in the company I was working. So a lot of the things were still happening manually. But if you, to answer your question, Monir, like, yes, we should really be aware of what's happening, because eventually every company, whether it's pharma, biotech, or medical device, they are a data company in the end, right? They are processing vast amounts of data, whether it's manual, electronic, or a mix of both. It doesn't matter. And ultimately, AI is going to somewhere be involved in that data intake, data processing, or data output. That's just look at it from that lens and try to understand. You don't have to understand how the AI works, but just understand what is it doing in the data intake, what it is doing in the data processing, what it is doing in the data output. And maybe then once you get that, you can go and go deeper into the AI. But so that's what advice I give to all other consultants is like, you don't need an AI certificate. You just need to understand how AI works with all the data that your systems and product is using.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a question also here, which is what is now the situation in the US still? Is still FDA accepting only closed AI system, or now they are starting to accept AI open generative system? So mainly, I think AI tools that are learning by themselves and changing by themselves their methodology.
Yeah, this is a very loaded question. I would say the answer to this is, if you can defend how the open generative system were trained and validated, then I guess you could use them. But that's a mind scratching or head scratching game that a lot of companies are trying to figure out, is how can they demonstrate that when the agency knocks on their door and asks questions.
Yeah, because having this kind of system is like they are auto learning. So at the end, they will take maybe the control of the world, and they will.
Yeah.
I'd like to add right now that my favorite movie is The Matrix.
Exactly.
To your point, Monir.
Yeah, and that's why when you look at, so this is an example that we faced with one of the clients. They are a top 10 biotech pharma company in the world, and we were working with them on an AI project for managing their suppliers or vendors and tracking some data. And they obviously, like every other big pharma company, do not want to use OpenAI because they don't have any trust in how it works, or there's nothing there. It does the job. We showed them that it does the job, but they still don't want to use it. It costs $20 a month, but they've gone to other expensive solutions like IBM Watson, John Snow Labs, and literally like spending months with their data science team to build something just because they don't want to answer questions to the agency. They want everything to be gated so that
Exactly.
they have control.
Yeah. I saw one message of Elon Musk that says if there is OpenAI on the phones, he will ban them from from his company. I think so. Yeah, I think a lot of companies are afraid of also this OpenAI or not only OpenAI but any artificial intelligence tool that, because you are giving to them data. So what are they doing with those data afterwards? So you have also to be
processing and giving responses to others.
Exactly. Yeah. We have also in Europe a new thing which is called the AI Act. So have you heard about it and what do you think about that, maybe?
I'm not familiar.
No, I'm not familiar.
New to me as well.
So Europe, we have now a new legislation like the EU MDR, but we have what we call the AI Act, which is a new legislation for artificial intelligence. It's mainly a legislation that is not only for medical devices, but for any software in Europe that contains artificial intelligence, where it asks you to have some requirements related to the data that you are using, that to verify that they are from a good sources, the GDPR also, that the data you are authorization to use them, etc. A lot of rules. There are around 200 and something pages, 20 or 30 pages of legislation like the EU MDR here. And now this is just published from last week, if I remember, Friday last week. And now there will be 20 days before application. So as you are consultant in the US, if you are coming to Europe with artificial intelligence devices, then you'll have to also apply EU MDR plus the AI Act, which will be another legislation that will be in parallel for that. And we are organizing in October 1st also an event, the AI Act Summit, which will be in France, where we'll be just gathering all the experts in artificial intelligence and the legislation, just to explain what are the consequences of the AI Act and mainly how this can be impacting medical device manufacturers. But yeah, maybe, I don't know if this, I mean, when we say AI Act, it looks more a US terminology that we are using. But do you think it's necessary to have a specific legislation like the QMSR or whatever, but specifically for artificial intelligence?
I think that they're never going to be able to keep up with the technology in a legal format.
Mm-hmm.
The MDR came up with all kinds of mechanisms for monitoring so they could easily update the regulations based on how things changed over time. But I don't think that that's going to be a realistic goal for artificial intelligence. People are just starting to think it's a new thing now because it's ubiquitous in everything they use. But they don't realize how much it's already being used for everything behind the scenes. There's a lot of people that are writing blogs that are not written by a person.
Yeah, true.
If we link this back to our conversation at the beginning about the QMSR, that regulation, and in the context of just thinking about what it takes to develop and issue regulations, the QSR was originally, the GMPs issued in 1976, then it was updated in 1996, and then it wasn't updated again until, this year. Yeah. And it's going to be 50 years old by the time that it is retired and put away. So it's going to take basically, it has a 50-year life cycle of developing and implementing regulation and watching change. They were watching and participating in the worldwide change of ISO as it was changed 2 or 3 times, of 14971 as it was changed. So the regulation is always going to lag significantly behind what is actually happening.
And it's a good thing.
We need the government reform first.
Yes.
Washington State switched over to a Scrum process for writing regulations. That's what we need if we're going to keep up.
No, it's good. But as you said, Michel, so mainly it's good also that you have this lagging, so that the regulation is not coming before the technology is in place. So first the technology is in place, we learn from it, and then we can put in place some regulations or some legislation for it.
Well, the way you learn is what went wrong.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What went wrong that we need to put boundaries around. It's like, I feel like a lot of times the FDA is like, we gave you the rope, and what you decided to do with it was make a noose and hang yourself. And then, so now we have to regulate because you hurt yourself or you hurt somebody else. And so that's what drives regulation, is like, something happens to the public, the government is accountable to the public, then they make regulations that supposedly protect the public. But they're really just, I don't want to say show, but in
But yeah.
response to, it's not like we think that this regulation is truly the right thing for the right thing's sake. It's that we have to do this now because you're not going to do the right thing. So
Yeah,
I think it also comes back to both personal and professional, like, integrity about doing the right thing.
Yeah, and maybe a last question: Do you think AI or artificial intelligence will be also a tool to help consultants like us, or maybe take our place, if I can say, to make decisions, make documentations, make all those things by itself? Or no, it's really not at the level now to do this kind of thing?
Well, I think the answer to that is based on, like, if you consider the amount of information just the four of us have, right? We're in the similar industry, if you call it life sciences, but like the amount of clients, the amount of projects, everything that we worked with, like, it's going to be very hard to put that amount of data into a AI system or even give it training, right? Like, we've learned through our journey in different careers or different jobs and becoming business owners or consultants. So I just don't think that there is a structured way to feed that to an AI tool. I mean, yes, you can teach the AI all the regulations and everything that's available, publicly available, but there's a lot of context that's missing, common sense or whatever you want to call it. So I think that's where you can use it for some guidance, but I don't think it can take place of a consultant that has been in those trenches and done the work.
And
Yeah.
to that point, can you teach it intuition?
Can you what? Sorry.
I said, to that point, can you teach it intuition?
Yeah,
Like,
you cannot. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, gut feeling or how thing. I don't think you can. But as Michael Kanye also said, mainly, yes, it's maybe not doing the job of a consultant, but it can help consultants maybe to accelerate some of job. For example, I compare it also. For example, when I want to search information a long time ago, I had to go to an encyclopedia, so I had to go to pages one by one to open it, try to find the information. Now I can go to Google and just type and find a lot of websites, maybe where the information is there. And now I can use the AI or OpenAI just to ask him a question, and he will just compile all those information to provide me an answer that I should still evaluate and establish and verify, etc. So it's not like they will replace, but it can help us to accelerate and speed up our job. Rob, maybe?
Agreed.
We had, when I think back to how things have evolved over time, there's been a lot more automation of tasks. The automation seems to happen first. And when I look at our jobs, a lot of what we do is still very manual. And I think we're going to see more automation of our tasks, where if I do this, this will automatically happen next. And making things 100% digital, we're very close. But I still have people asking me to sign things. It's just like, really? I think we can duplicate my fingerprints pretty well. So why?
I mean, you can give your signature to the artificial intelligence, and they can put it copy paste.
Yeah, just sign everything for me for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Arsh, anything else?
No, maybe you can do the next session like this. If you had the AI in the background, you could have done this with
Yeah.
just trained
Exactly.
our
We've done that in
Lip
some
syncing.
meetings with clients where we're like, well, let's see what AI says to this answer. So it would definitely make a more spirited debate.
So the FDA recently had their READY conference, and I can't remember what READY stands for, but it's basically it's like a 2-day educational summit for like startups, small businesses, whatnot. So most of the information is pretty basic, but there was one that I wanted to understand what they said, and I didn't want to actually listen to it, and they hadn't posted the slides yet. So they had the transcript up. So I took the transcript of the portion I wanted to understand. I put it in ChatGPT, and it came out and told me about this HR shroom process.
Okay.
And I'm like, what the heck did you read out of that? Like, so if you want to know if ChatGPT is going to replace me, not yet.
No,
not next year, and not the year after that. Unless you want an HR consultant, then then call me and I'll put it in ChatGPT. I'll put the USR in ChatGPT and I'll tell you what to do with your HR system.
Exactly.
I can't tell which clients use it for writing their instruction for use in device description, though.
I've done the same test. So sometimes I take what the customer is asking me as a question. I just feed that to ChatGPT to see what he will answer. And to be honest, it's not accurate or not good at all. So as I said, it can help you to maybe summarize some information and to make it more convenient for you instead of going to 10 websites and finding the things. But for the moment, the context, the intuition, as you mentioned, or the experience also of on the field is missing. It's something that you cannot replace with artificial intelligence. Great. I have just seen that question. So yeah, for James, if you want to go to the AI Act agenda, so it's October 1st. It will be on the medtechconf, medtechconf.com, and there will be the agenda and everything there. So medtechconf is the website for all the conferences. So you can go to that and you'll find all the agenda for it in October 1st. Okay, so I think we covered everything. Any last comment before we are leaving? So Rob, maybe to start?
This was a delight, and thank you for having me, and definitely would be interested in doing more of these.
Great. So really happy to hear that. Arsh, from your side?
No, just the same. Like great for being here and meeting Rob and Michelle, and maybe the next one I'll be listening more because I didn't know about the EU AI Act, so I'll be reading that this weekend.
No problem. So I said it's here also to learn, so it's great to have that. And you, Michelle, everything's okay?
Yeah, no, it was super fun, and I'm just going to close with saying, what color pill do you want to take? Red or blue?
Blue or red?
Are you going to go into the matrix, or are you going to come out of the matrix and run the matrix?
Great, yeah. Okay, so thanks everybody. Thanks again for joining us. Again, this session is recorded, so you'll see that on the YouTube channel as a recording. So don't hesitate to share that with your colleagues and everything. And I will also put the links for Michelle, Rob, and Arsh on the show notes so that you can also look at their LinkedIn. Follow Michelle because she makes a lot of content. Follow Arsh also, he's making a lot of content, and Rob has a lot of videos also on the YouTube channel, his YouTube channel. So don't hesitate to follow our experts. They are really great also to share their knowledge and content on the internet. So thanks everybody again. Thanks everyone, and I wish you a nice weekend. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.